Hey guys,
Hey,
how are you all?
sad. That movie was sad.
Oh man, thank you for watching it.
Yeah. It needs to be done now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're showing it now to around the country, and it's been really powerful to see the reactions of parents and kids seeing it for the first time. So thanks for letting us chat about it and get the word out.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hello. So
Maria.
I'm going to hit recording on my side, and Maria and Stephen, you're with Sully from the Hollywood Times.
Hi, Sally.
Hi. I love how big of a character the score was,
Mm.
if you will. Was it made as the film was coming along?
Yeah, so we work with Jake Hull, who's a brilliant composer. This is our fourth film with him, and we've done some episodic as well. He's super talented. He's in Portland, Oregon, and so once we get to a locked picture cut, then we start working very closely with him on how to let the music be a big character in the film. That's a really cool question. Thank you for that.
Yeah. What is a no questions asked favorite, and why those factors are so prevalent in our society today?
Oh, you mean like when the perpetrator asked his friend from the Naval Academy to do a favor for him, no questions asked? It's kind of a military code. They have at the Naval Academy where the body can ask his, friend, hey, I need this favor, no question asked. And it's kind of like a code that they still uphold to this day. So that's what happened in our case, in Daniel Harris' case.
Mm. Was it difficult to get clearance from governmental agencies?
Yeah, so it's funny, when we first started working on the film, we thought we were going to be doing a lot of filming on the West Coast. But when COVID hit, we had to pivot and we're on the East Coast. And so we reached out to some friends in the US Attorney's Office who told us about the Dan Harris case and began introducing us one by one to the primary law enforcement folks involved. And so slowly but surely, we began building trust and rapport with, the Commonwealth Attorney, the Special Agent at Homeland Security. And, there were multiple production companies that wanted to tell this story. But I think because we're parents of preteen and teenage girls, and we knew that they kind of understood our heart behind why we wanted to tell this story as a tool for prevention and helping this from happening to the next kid. They ultimately, completely made the film, all of the subjects available to us. They released all of the transcripts and the court documents so that we could tell the story in a really compelling way.
That it was really compelling, heartbreaking too.
Yeah.
Before we decided to make the film, we often try to make sure there's something new that we can bring to it, or if the story's already been very well told. And I was really surprised that I found 50 or so documentaries on human trafficking, but no films at all on this subject, on sextortion, on online enticement. And as we've been working very closely with the folks on the front lines dealing with this crime, we've learned that it's 1,000 times more prevalent than trafficking. And so we've come to the conclusion that this is the fastest growing crime in the world that nobody knows about. And we do believe that quote about anger and courage, it requires both. We have to be made aware that there's 80,000 tips every single day sent to the cyber tip line, and that should make us angry. And then we've also been so honored to meet so many people on the front lines and those who are willing to share their stories as victims that are taking courage to take their power back and to use their voice to make sure it doesn't happen again. So it's those two sides of the coin, and that quote just really perfectly, sets the film up.
Yeah, St. Augustine does it best, usually.
Yes.
I found the cinematography impressive. Was there any artistry to it?
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I always tell people, documentaries used to be the broccoli of filmmaking. And now they're kind of the cool kids in town, and the streamers have been a big part of that. And we've been fortunate to have several of our docs on Netflix and Prime. And so I think one of the reasons is because we're using all of the tools of cinema, to make docs now. And so we shoot everything on red cameras, and we try very hard to make sure that the images are beautiful and that it's a very cinematic experience. And then from the cinematography side, and then Maria obviously is a brilliant storyteller and is able to bring out the very best in people so that you feel like you've had an emotional experience. We kind of think documentaries are like empathy machines, and so they allow people to feel in a different way that stats and statistics can never bring. And so we're hoping to use the power of storytelling, the power specifically of the doc, to kind of change the world. And one of the very first things we wanted to point our lens to was this crazy crime that just needs to be brought out into the light.
Yeah, I agree with you. Totally. How much time did it take to come up with this? Filming and research for it?
So total time was about 2 years. It was extremely difficult to tell the story in a proper way because we started filming during COVID. When vaccination wasn't available, we had to travel by RV to interview our subjects. Our access to subjects was very limited, and the budget went up almost by 30%. But we worked with artists in Ukraine to recreate courtroom sketches and then later animate them because we weren't actually able to film inside courtrooms. Even the reenactments, we couldn't have access to courtrooms. At that point, we couldn't work with actors as well. Later on, we were able to bring some actors on for short reenactments. So yeah, definitely had to really learn how to make a documentary, and took about double the time that it normally would, but we got it done.
I'm proud of you for getting that done in 2 years. It's really good.
Thank you. Yeah, 2 years is 1 year too long, but we got it done.
Were there any shots that you left out?
A lot. We left out a lot. We left out a lot of the case. There was a lot of more twists and turns, but it was taken away from the message of the film. So kind of had to leave it on the cutting floor. Also, we had to clean it up a lot. There was a lot of profanity and foul language that the perpetrators used. We wanted the film to be accessible to children, to middle schoolers and high schoolers. So we had to clean up all the court transcripts. But a lot of yes, it is a lot of interview portions that we just couldn't fit into one film.
Do we know exactly how many girls Daniel Harris extorted?
We think it's 300 plus. Unfortunately, they weren't able to identify every single child. They tried. 10 victims testified ultimately, but there were at least 300 unique images from all over the world, and there could be more. And all of those victims did not come forward. There was only HM that came forward and saved the rest of the girls from being further victimized.
Wow. Now I'm angry.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the kind of takeaways that we're really hoping that, parents and kids will come away with, is that literally, HM was a hero in this film. And, the perpetrators often use shame and silence, to keep their power over them. And so now, as people are starting to come forward, our message to parents is make sure that your kids know, it's okay if this happens. You're not alone. And we're not going to take away your phone. You're not going to get in trouble. We're not going to judge you. Just tell us, because only when they tell does the crime stop.
This question is directed to Maria. How did you come up with such riveting and real direction on the fictional slash acting scenes? Because that was impressive.
I think it's a evolution. Every film is evolution. You don't really exactly know how you're gonna tell the story until you get further into it. So I think every step that we took, every interview, it kind of informed the next step. So I, compare it to walking down the seashore and collecting seashells, and one shell fits in, another one is kind of damaged and it doesn't fit in. So it's a process of piecing it together step by step. It's not necessarily, it's a journey itself, right? It's not necessarily a destination right away. So I would say it was just like taking it step at a time, understanding where we want to go further, seeing what the story is, how it's twisting and turning, and then how can we illustrate that. That's how we came up with those reenactment scenes.
Cool. How can parents educate their kids on the subject?
I think children just need to understand this is happening on such a large scale. It's actually happening to 1 in 4 American children right now who are online, ages 7 to 17. So number one, they're not alone. Number two, there are about 10% of people who are online at any given moment are predators. So the chances are they probably will talk to somebody who is a predator who is pretending to be a child. So they need to understand the red flags, such as they meet somebody online, they never show their face, they only have a picture, but they just happen to like the same music, they happen to go to the same school, they just happen to know the same kids, and they want information from a child, where they go to school, what they like. They compliment child on their appearance. They ask them for images of themselves, not necessarily compromising to start with, but then it can later progress to compromising images. And I think parents and children need to know that they should never send an image to somebody they don't know in real life. And they should never send an image in general, because if they do, they will not be able to get it back. But if they did, there is a lot of help out there. There National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has a cyber tip line. You can report crimes like this, you can take down images, and you can also know what steps to take if something like this is happening to you or to your child. But I think number one step is education and prevention. It's just like driver's license. We have to teach our children how to be safe online. And one of them is being able to discern who is a predator, who is a friend, and not sharing information with somebody they don't know in real life, and not sharing images with anybody.
What do you hope this film accomplishes ultimately?
So, 2 years ago, we didn't even know that sextortion was a thing, and I tell people a lot that we really do believe this is the fastest growing crime in the world that nobody knows about. And so Erin Burke from the film Homeland Security, she told us if I had every single agent working 24/7, 365, they would not be able to keep up with the caseload. So in talking with the folks on the front lines fighting this crime, we understand that we cannot arrest ourselves out of this problem. The numbers are staggering. In the last 3 years, they went from 16 million to 21 million. And last year was 29 million reports sent to the cyber tip line. That's 80,000 a day. So the shift has to come to prevention. And that's exactly what we believe this film can do, is actually help at a very granular level know what we should be looking for and some great steps that we can take to help keep our kids safe online.
I know this was geared towards children, but what advice can you give to adults of sextortion?
Mm.
I think the
Adult
same
victims.
rules apply. Yeah, the same rules apply. I mean, sextortion is not a crime that just happens to children. Sextortion is a crime that happens to everybody. There have been several cases at several big universities lately where students fell victims of sextortion. It's just, we all have a need to be loved, and we just need to be careful how we are fulfilling that need if we're meeting somebody online and we can't, we don't know them in real life. They're asking too much information from us and they're asking for images from us. Same thing applies. Those images we can never get back and they can be held against us. And oftentimes the predator turns. They are very friendly and complimentary. They get the image and then they turn and they say, well, now I have your image. I can release it to your family. I can release it to all your friends online. I can release it to, to your colleagues if you don't do A, B, and C. So it could be money or more images. So we just need to be aware and understand the red flags in any kind of relationship. If somebody has a power and information and that person is not you, it's probably not a good relationship for you to be in.
It's been amazing
Yeah.
to chat with you. I would just, thank you for, helping us to introduce this to your audience. There's a lot of information on the film website, so sextortionfilm.com. We've got educational resources, little 5-minute cut downs of the movie. And then another thing that would be super helpful for us, the film comes out on October 4th on 10/4. And pre-orders are super important, especially on iTunes, because it helps it to chart. We made it as cheap as iTunes would let us, so it's only $10 for the movie, and all of the profits are actually going to nonprofits that are working to help keep our kids safe online. But getting on those iTunes charts are super important. It brings a lot of awareness, and the streamers, it gets on their radar. So that's a way that people can find out more information, find resources to use, and also help with the film.
If you or anybody who you know has been hurt by this, you are not alone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll also be able to find on the website some of the upcoming screenings we have. We're doing a 20-city tour right now, and that's been a message that we have been saying, because in almost every screening so far, we've had active cases during the Q&A, someone from a 12-year-old all the way up to a 26-year-old who have stood up and say, this is happening to me right now, and I came to figure out what I need to do. And so it's been incredibly powerful bringing the film to communities coming out of the Santa Barbara premiere and leading up to our 10/4 release date.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was nice meeting you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Bye.
Thank you, so it was wonderful to meet you. Thank you.
Wonderful to meet you too.